Are recording. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. We want to make sure that all of our families who are affected get to hear this information. So we're really committed to making sure that we reach out and talk to all our neighborhood 5th, 6th, and 7th grade families. So thank you for being here. Hopefully we can answer all your questions. But if not, we are taking down all questions and typing them all up with answers so that we'll have a FAQ that we can share with the community also, along with this video. So the one thing that we asked from you tonight is we want you to take a quick survey. So we'll put it in the, so Elena or Gina, can you put that in the slide deck so the survey is really quick. We just want to know a couple questions from you. Of course, I don't want you to answer it right now. I want you to answer it at the end, but I want to give you a heads up that that is what the thing that we're asking from you at the end of the evening. And it's whatever your current thinking is. We just want to get a sense of where we're at as far as where we're going on this journey. So like I said, I'm Melissa Schochner. I'm the principal, and we're just going to do quick introductions. So Gina. Oh, and she looks like she's frozen again.
No, I'm Gina Roletto, and I'm one of the assistant principals that works mostly with the middle school here at Bridger.
I'm Elena Matija. I am another assistant principal at Bridger.
Good evening. My name is Claire Hertz, and I am a deputy superintendent, and I have been working with the Southeast Guiding Coalition on this enrollment and program balancing process. So I'm happy to hear from you tonight. I'm going to mostly be quiet and be a good listener.
Good evening. I'm Esther McBain. I've been facilitating the Southeast Guiding Coalition process since September. I am happy to be here and welcome.
Good evening. I'm Judy Brennan, Director of Enrollment and Transfer. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hi there. My name is Kathleen Elwood. I'm an Area Senior Director, and what that means is that I support principals, and Bridger is one of the 14 schools I help to supervise and support.
So good evening. You want to take this slide?
Yes, I just started. Okay. Good evening again. So for the 2021-2022 school year, we've been looking at a variety of things for Bridger students. Bridger School will become K-5 school. Our Bridger kindergarten students who are currently in a second building, the annex, will be able to move back into the Bridger building itself. So they'll all be housed in one area. To do this though, it does mean that some of the students have to be moved out. So our 6th to 8th grade students at the middle school in the Spanish Immersion program will move to Kellogg Middle School, while the neighborhood program students in 6th to 8th grade will move to Harrison Park K-8 school for the 2021-2022 school year. Next slide, please.
So I'm going to describe a little bit more of the details on how we're thinking this change could apply for your families and children. So what this means is that students could just automatically move to Harrison Park, or could also complete a transfer request and let us know what other school you'd like your children to go to. We are going to hold up to 25 slots at Bridger, and if there are more than 25, at Kellogg for Bridger students, and if there are more than 25 who request that transfer, then we would give priority based on address to the kids who live closest to the new Kellogg building. This is because we know that Kellogg is in the Bridger boundary and it's really close to where some families live. So that's why we would extend that priority. Because the Southeast Guiding Coalition process continues, we really don't know the final boundary for Kellogg, but it's likely that those streets that are closest to the building that are currently in Bridger could convert. And so instead of waiting a year, kids could access it if they live close to the school starting next year. There's a link in here for applying, and that applications would be due in February 8th. So we're going to give you a little bit of time to think about what you think would be best for your children and send in that request. Next slide.
So Leah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you like to talk about this?
I can do that.
The principal of Harrison Park.
Yeah, my name is Leah Dickey. I'm the principal at Harrison Park. And because we know that your timeline as parents is pretty quick, we are going to go ahead and host informational Q&A session for Bridger families this Thursday night from 6 to 7. It says the online code is there, so I'm assuming that you got that link earlier today. So we will be more than happy at Harrison Park to answer any questions that you have specifically. And, you know, we are excited to welcome new students into our middle school program and would definitely feel value in having your students join us. And I can talk more, but I'll let you tell me.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. I just have lots of moving parts here. I can't go that quick. All right, Kathleen.
Yeah, hi there. So we also wanted everyone to be aware that there are other potential options for middle school in the Southeast area. You can see there we have 4 middle schools listed. And of course, applying for a transfer or petition for a transfer is based on space availability at these school sites. So as I was saying, we have our 4 middle schools, Lane, Kellogg, Mount Tabor, and Hosford. And then of course we have Harrison Park, which we just spoke about. And then we have 3 other focus option schools that also have middle grade students. They are Creative Science, Winter Haven, and Sunnyside. And here on the PowerPoint, there's a link to the Portland Public Schools map because we realized that this one, as it was enlarged, wasn't the easiest to read. So you're welcome to peruse that. And we are moving over to Judy again.
Yes, and I think we should refresh because I did have a chart in here that was a late addition. We just wanted you all to understand, and we'll be sharing this with Preston community members and other folks as we're getting closer to the board decision. We just wanted you to also be aware that the schools in the area are going to be really full. You'll see from this that with Kellogg adding some Bridger students, also maybe some students from Preston. We don't know the exact number. We're just estimating right now that Kellogg's going to open probably well above 90% of capacity. And then Hosford is also probably going to be more full. Mount Tabor, keeping the Spanish immersion program next year, is also going to be really full. So we just want to share information about what's happening in the local area with you to start with, so that you have what you need to think through decisions. If you'd like more information about any of these choices, yes, you can certainly call the Enrollment and Transfer Center, connect with a placement specialist. And then I really am excited to know that there are people who are interested in learning more about what is available at Harrison Park, and glad that Principal Dickey is here tonight for our Q&A. Oh, I think this one is mine as well. More questions that might come up for folks who have younger students. If you have younger students in the Bridger Neighborhood Program and you go to Harrison Park, yes, we could accommodate them. Principal Dickey, right? We're nodding, so that the whole family could move together starting next year. And then if you start in one middle school and when it's time for your younger siblings to transfer, if your older child is still enrolled in that school, the younger one can request a transfer and would be accommodated based on space availability. It's not a guarantee. They would have priority. So that's another question that might be on your mind. How would this work? I think that's all of the sort of transfer highlights that we're bringing you tonight.
All right, so questions? I gotta get my reading glasses on. I see a raised hand. Where did it go to? Was it Sadie that raised her hand?
Yeah, Sadie.
Oh, that was crazy. Okay, so there's 25 slots for kids that are going to be able to try and transfer into Kellogg versus Harrison Park. So those are just the first 25 that apply, or how are you guys going to figure that out?
I can take that question. If more than 25 students apply, we would give priority to the kids who live closest to the Kellogg building. So we look at specific addresses if that final decision is needed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Would it be helpful for me just to talk a little bit about our middle school program, just a very small synopsis, and that way families that are here, I'm saying yes, so I'll just roll with that. So I have been at Harrison Park for the last, this is year 7, and I've been principal there. This is year 3. And my background is actually middle school. That's what I taught for 15 years. And I can tell you that we've worked really hard, especially in the last 2 years, to build a stronger middle school program. I had kind of seen the writing on the wall of what direction we were headed in. And so I've been working with my staff to really build our middle school program, and we've gotten some supports from the district to do that. So just some offerings that we have in place right now, and you're welcome to, I will have some staff members with us on Thursday. We have a very, very strong AVID program. I don't want to brag too much about it just because I feel like sometimes then you have people coming in and looking at you all the time, and so we're kind of quiet about it. But our AVID program is stellar, and we have a phenomenal teacher. And we're growing that program every single year, and it definitely has made a difference with our middle school students. This year, I guess, we were chosen as one of 5 schools in the district to receive a Verizon grant, which gave all of our students a touchscreen Chromebook with built-in Wi-Fi. It also allowed us to have some technology support. So this year we have a technology person that answers any of your questions, staff's questions, and it's been pretty incredible, especially during the pandemic, as well as a coach that's working with our teachers to provide more technology training to our middle school students. We have been able to add a theater teacher to our program, and he's pretty fantastic, and we are definitely building that program in the at Harrison Park. We're able to offer art to our middle school students, and our art teacher is fantastic, and our students, middle school students especially, appreciate her, as well as a dance program that we're building. And we have, a health and science teacher that we've added, and I've really worked hard to add dual endorsed teachers that can really support our students in a lot of different ways. And then on top of that, this year especially, the district has started to give us some more outside partners. And so we have some different groups that come into the building, and we're working with Chess for Success. We have Conexion. We have youth empowerment program. I'm going to space them. I should have wrote them all down, but we have several of those programs that come in and work with our students as well. So I feel like we've really had a focus on middle school in the last few years and are starting to see a big shift with our middle school program. So there you go.
Could you speak a little bit more to the AVID program? There was a question about that.
Yeah. Certainly. So AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination, and it is a program that is specific. Well, it was specifically designed to really work with students who may not have college-educated parents and kind of help them understand study skills and maybe some supports that they may not receive at home. But I think that's a piece to it, but it really is a program giving kids solid study skills before they head into high school, a lot of leadership skills, public speaking skills, and for example, our middle schoolers all have an online agenda or planner that they're using, and that came out of our AVID program, and so they can track that. They know where their assignments are. It really has helped to focus them. And then my teachers are using a lot of the AVID strategies, which are more, I guess, active strategies, Socratic seminars, those types of things in their classrooms to really get students engaged and talking to each other and working together. In a nutshell, she'll do a better job describing it than me, I'm sure.
Pretty powerful program.
Yes, yeah.
Part of that in high school. So I'm going to go through the questions in the chat. What is the current 5th through 7th grade class sizes?
So this year we only have 2 sections of 5th grade. And because of that, I made a decision to put another 5th grade teacher down at 1st grade. And I felt that having class sizes of 27 for 1st grade was a lot. And so we have 2 5th grade classes this year, and they're around 31. But that is unusual for us. And generally speaking, class sizes are around 25. Our middle school program, class sizes range from 17 at the smallest, and I think the largest would be around 28 or so. Definitely try not to go over 30.
Great, thank you. Melissa, what do our class sizes look like that might be moving there from our neighborhood program?
So all of our, let's see, I can pull up the list. It'll take me a second, and I can give you actual numbers. You want to ask another question?
Sure. Miss Julia had asked if there was a phone tree of personal contact happening to notify families of the enrollment transfer agreement, and how are we going to ensure equitable awareness of this opportunity? And the admin team, along with some other support staff, we will be contacting all the affected families. All the families that will be impacted, as well as with interpretation. I actually have a meeting after this one with an interpreter to help to share this information with one of our Vietnamese speaking families. So we are making a pretty concerted effort to make sure all of our families are contacted. Are you ready, Ms. Schreckner?
I am. So in 5th grade right now, we have 16 students. 6th grade is 27 students, and 7th grade is 17 students.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer asked, how will PPS be supporting these kids at Harrison Park because they will remain at K-8? Will they allot funds from the coalition ask to from Creston to Harrison Park? So I'm assuming that means there were funds that were going to go to Creston if Creston did not make a change. And I guess they're asking, will some of those funds now go to Harrison Park to support those students?
So I'll respond to that. And in our budget process, we have set aside funds for the schools in the Southeast as we transition from phase 1 to phase 2. So it's a separate set of FTE that will be used to help schools transition. So both in the general fund, there are some teaching positions to help augment the needs as we transition. But then also the other part I want to mention is the bond program has dollars set aside to enhance the facilities at Harrison Park, to add science labs, to this will be in the it won't necessarily be for next year, but as it converts to a middle school in the second year, it will be having listening to the principal talk about her dance program. And so we're looking at what it would take to augment that program and support their facility by improvements in the dancing area. So those are the kinds of things that we have in place to help with the schools moving or students moving to new schools.
Thank you. The next question is, what is the plan for transportation for our Harrison Park students?
So there will be routing created based on the attendance boundaries. So if you're less than a mile from Harrison Park, and you would most likely walk. However, there is also the consideration of safety factors that our transportation team, once we have, we know where students are coming to go into Harrison Park, will be making, specific routing based on those factors. And I don't know if Principal Melissa has also additional information there.
No, that's my understanding. It's, that 1 mile radius, and then we'll do, they do a survey of schools. I would say that in between our two schools, the city has done a lot of improvements to our streets, and we actually have sidewalks right now. So yay, new things.
We need a few more around our school, but we're working on it.
Yeah, that just happened this school year, is that we got some sidewalks. So
thank you. Can you please remind us where Harrison Park feeds into, or which high school?
Principal Dickey, you want to do that one?
I can do that. So right now we feed into Madison High School, and of course all of that is on the table with the Southeast Portland Guiding Coalition. So, but we're Madison right now.
So in phase 2, that might be modified. Okay.
Yeah.
So what about students who are in immersion that would like to go to Harrison Park? Would they have to go through enrollment and transfer process even if they live in the Harrison Park boundary?
Judy, do you want to take that one?
Yes, and if they live in the Harrison Park boundary, they'd be guaranteed a space at Harrison Park, but we would like them to give us their information so that we can track the movement. But anyone else who would like to enroll in Harrison Park, we will go through a petition and look to see where space is available by grade, and hopefully could accommodate all, right, Principal Dickey? Yes.
I think, as far as size wise goes in my middle school, we can definitely figure it out. I'd like to say that it really is, just kind of thinking that it's for 1 year before the full conversion starts or happens, and then our elementary school will be placed elsewhere. So I think, there may be a little bit of crowding, and I say that with I'm not concerned at all. I know we can figure things out.
Great, thank you.
I think her crowding is not the same as Bridger crowding.
No, we are currently not using gymnasiums over at Harrison Park, or, I've already started to do some shifts, and we have some space, and that's kind of open spacing, and we could utilize in some different ways. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay, thank you. So we have another sibling question, and I think I'm pretty sure I know who this is. Will Bridger's siblings, one who is currently headed to Franklin this fall, receive priority for Kellogg? So have one sibling going to high school next year at Franklin, and one that they hope would go to Kellogg in order to be in the same feeder.
And they both, and I'm sorry, this is a family that lives in the Bridger boundary now?
They go here. It doesn't say, but yeah.
Okay.
We currently have both.
Well, a student who lives in the Bridger, is that Mr. Tash?
Yeah, he said yes.
Yeah, so this shouldn't affect your Franklin High School student at all. Your high school students would remain assigned to Franklin next year. So all of Bridger 8th graders, neighborhood students assigned to Franklin next year.
So they're just wondering if a younger sibling would get priority to Kellogg if they petition.
I'm afraid not. We would look at proximity. The experience of the kids who might go to Kellogg and wind up living in the boundary probably is a higher priority at this point than whether they might also have a sibling at high school in future years.
Thank you. And Jacob says it's good to hear about what Harrison Park is offering. What is Kellogg expected to offer in terms of these additional programs?
So I guess I could take that. So the principal was just announced, and so that principal is working on getting everything started and getting community feedback. I'm sure is going to be part of that, and talking to different people to start creating a plan for Kellogg. So the plan will be created based on feedback from the community. At least that's my understanding from talking to them. Maybe anyone else want to?
I was just going to say the big boulders as far as like teacher placement, program structure for the basic core classes would happen first. And I would predict that the additional, what they could offer would probably come mid-spring would probably be the earliest, you know, when they start to ask kids what electives, and we go through that whole process. So.
And Melissa and Gina, you are correct. The principal did say that he was going to survey the community and the stakeholders to make sure that he does have input on what electives and what course offerings, aside from what the basic offerings would be. So you'd have your traditional basic course offerings for middle school, and then anything beyond that in terms of electives, he'll conduct a survey and then build a program.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. O. We look forward
Sure.
to it. Do we know what the projected class sizes are for Kellogg? I don't know if that means individual class sizes or grade level class sizes.
Class sizes are oftentimes dependent on how many students actually enroll and show up. So I would guess that he would probably be around 28 to 32. However, remember that that's going to be real flexible based on the number of students that show up and the teacher allotment that he has.
Thank you.
Sure.
Question here about what will happen with neighborhood program incoming 6th graders who live very close to Kellogg. If they're currently a 5th grader here at Bridger, I'm assuming that would be the petition process. Looks like a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So anyone who, so the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade neighborhood students right now at Bridger automatically going to roll over to Harrison Park for next year. If that is something that, so then you need to go through the application process. And Judy, thumbs up. Did I get that right?
You certainly did. And in the chat, I also added the link just to clarify. Kellogg isn't a choice yet in our online system because the board hasn't approved its student assignment pattern yet. We're hoping that they'll do that tomorrow. I put a link into the paper form. So we can accept paper forms starting tomorrow if you'd like to request a different school. We'll get the online system updated as soon as we can, but we don't want that to delay your opportunity to let us know your interest. And if you have any questions about that, I'm going to put our phone number, or I'll put the enrollment and transfer email address in the chat as well. And we can answer specific questions with you tomorrow or whenever.
So So it sounds like you can start tomorrow to fill out the paper form and that the online system is still coming. So from Rachel, FYI, there are any sidewalks on Mill Street east of 82nd, like the way it used to be near Bridger. But the follow-up question is, where will the orchestra program be?
That's something, I just had a conversation this morning with Dr. O and Kathleen. So it's something that that I want to have a conversation with Principal Dickey and Principal Smith of Kellogg and see if we can figure out a way to continue our orchestra program. So we're aware of it, and I know it's really important. And so trying to get really creative of how we can continue the program on is really important to me and to our amazing music teacher.
All right, thank you. And I know Ms. Schochner has been working really hard on that. So, music teacher. Let's see here. What electives are going to be offered at Harrison Park? Just trying to find a mute button. Hold on.
Control D.
Okay, sorry about that. My computer was kind of glitchy. So we, of course, some of our elective offerings. Oh.
I think we can hear you. You're just, the video is kind of glitchy.
Okay, you can hear me because you're all frozen. I'm sorry, you're all frozen. So some of our elective offerings, of course, are dependent on our allotment of FTE for the year, and we make decisions based on that. But we have really been working hard to build programs. And I think we definitely look to have our theater program, art, as an elective next year, dance. We also will have ABID. That's not going to change. We do have a music teacher, and they're more instrumental. And then we are looking next year to add some more engineering classes and those type of STEM classes at Harrison Park for electives as well. We also have a technology team with our Verizon grant that is students who are being trained to do some minor computer repairing and helping to take care of the different kinds of Chromebooks and things throughout the building. And we also have a leadership class as well. Oh, and we do have a Spanish as an elective. And we also offer Somali world language class for native Somali speakers.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Miss Gloria was asking how will the Spanish immersion program work at which school? So that will continue at Kellogg. Our current immersion students will continue at Kellogg for Spanish immersion, and Miss Brennan noted that Miss Gonzalez from Lent is moving to Kellogg along with the Spanish program from Lent. And Miss Gonzalez asked, since she's not in district, would she have to? And kids are in immersion, would they have to fill out the extra paperwork? Yes, right? Because it's a new school.
Actually, if you've, for any families who've moved out of district, and if you're in the Spanish immersion program and you've received permission from your home district and PBS to stay through 8th grade, like to stay as if you were staying at Bridger, then you don't need any additional paperwork or permission to move to. If you don't know if you have those permissions yet, please just email our office and we'll help clarify or get you on track with whatever documentation and applications you would need to stay in the program. Oh, awesome, Ms. Gonzalez. That sounds good. That permission lasts through 8th grade, so it'll travel with you. But at the end of 8th grade, you would need to receive permission again to stay for high school.
Awesome. So in regards to a prior question, why not prioritize 7th graders first, since they only have 1 year left and it would disrupt their middle school experience the most, then 6th, then 5th?
Who wants to take that question? Judy? Claire?
Well, sure. Or I can give it a shot. So I think that that's really compelling as well. If you're talking about access to, if you're specifically talking about Kellogg, it's just this recognition that we have of the geographic reality that some parts of the street closest to Kellogg that are a part of Bridger now are probably going to be part of Kellogg in the future. So instead of having kids go to Harrison Park and then be told you're in the Kellogg boundary, you can go back if you want, and having those additional transitions, we like this cohort model of everyone going to Harrison Park and Harrison Park having space for all the students and allowing some exceptions for kids who are south of Division, closest to the school. If we need to decide even within that group, I can imagine that your point about allowing upper grades makes sense, but it could result in lower grades kids having multiple middle schools. So, Claire, additions?
In addition to that, what we try to strive for in middle school, because it's such a short window of time, it is 3 years and then they're on to high school, is stability and a lot of consistency, especially in the area of social emotional development and academic continuity. So we always try to advocate, my background is middle school, so we always try to advocate for keeping middle school students in one spot for at least the 3 years so we can truly ground them and create solid foundations for success at the high school.
Thank you so much, ladies. The next question is, any idea where the Bridger neighborhood teachers are going? So I know that the planning principal is still receiving all the systems that will be put in place for that process of how teachers will get moved or apply or whatever avenue they take for next year. So that is still to be determined, as far as I know. And we'll be working with our middle school teams and helping them with transitions as well. Anyone else?
And I also want to add to that is in middle school, it's not clear cut. In some instances, we have teachers who, like language arts, who in math, who teach both neighborhood and DLI. And so it gets a little complicated. So there's not specifically like neighborhood teachers and DLI teachers, especially because we're a small middle school. There's a lot of cross-pollination there.
Thank you. Brian would like to ask a question.
Yeah, thanks. I hope everybody can hear me okay. A couple things. First off, I just want to say thank you for everybody who's been working on this, particularly the principal from Harrison Park, Ms. Dickey. Right, correct. Thank you for coming and talking about your school. I have a lot of faith that the teachers and administrators care a lot about the kids and work really hard to provide the best possible outcomes for them. And I have no worry about where my child ends up necessarily, whether it's Harrison Park or Kellogg. I do have some questions though. And my first one is, it's never been made clear, and I've brought this up several times, why the district feels that it's worth sending kids from the South Tabor neighborhood across 82nd Avenue and Division to Harrison Park when there's a school in their neighborhood. I mean, that's just a safe routes to school safety issue as far as I'm concerned, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, maybe there is a really good and legitimate reason for it, but nobody's ever been able to explain to me why that trade-off works or why it makes sense for the district. And, I really think that's a critical thing to answer. If kids have easy access to biking and walking to their middle school, that's a big deal. It's how we try to plan out for how kids get to school. And I don't see why the district would want more people driving to Harrison Park. So that's my first thing. The second thing is that I think an issue's been brought up about the feeders into the high schools. And I'm just really curious, if we live very close to Kellogg, but we end up at Harrison Park, does that automatically mean we go to Madison if that's the feeder? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, considering Franklin's just down the road and much closer and easier to get to. So I think this idea of where these schools end up sending kids to high school is kind of critical and important to be clear about that to families. Like, where, which high school is your kid going to get fed into based on where they go. But I'd like to know if somebody could speak to those things. I'd appreciate it.
So first, I wonder if Judy could answer the question about the feeders versus the boundary on high schools.
Well, I think both of these are really important issues that the Guiding Coalition needs to grapple with in order to make a final boundary for Kellogg Middle School, for Harrison Park Middle School, for all the K-5s, and for the high schools beyond. So we don't know, until the boundaries are set for the 22-23 year, I don't have any additional information to go on in terms of which high school an 8th grader who lives in the Bridger boundary and is attending Harrison Park would attend. At this point, Bridger is still a Franklin feeder. So the high school isn't changing at this moment. We just want your kids to have the most robust middle school experience we can help them have next year, and then work with you to minimize the negative impacts of any of these transitions. So the high school isn't changing right now. If the high school changes, it would be a part of that phase 2 Southeast Guiding Coalition process. I absolutely agree that proximity, transportation, and other factors, along with capacity, are going to be an important part of
that. Let's see here. Jacob, did we answer your question? Since it's kind of along those threads, let me know in the chat, or if you'd like to hear more. And Miss Julia is asking, can someone speak to the recent announcement about Preston as they shift from K to K5? Where will their middle school students be going, and to what degree has this decision impacted Bridger's middle school enrollment?
I can speak to that. So the first of all, the board is making their final vote tomorrow night at their board meeting. So there is a draft resolution right now that has only the directive to staff to place Preston in a neighborhood comprehensive middle school. It isn't specific to where they will be. We are about to meet with the Preston families later on this evening to begin the conversation about their placements into middle schools. We will be sharing some ideas and asking for feedback from them this evening. And in terms of what degree has this decision impacted Bridger's middle school enrollment? This hasn't changed any of the number of students or what we had in place for Bridger. That all stayed the same, and it did not make any change to what we're discussing with you tonight.
If I could just add to that, the board is the one change that's in the proposal that the board's looking at for tomorrow that wasn't in their prior discussion is that they are considering holding the Spanish immersion program currently located at Mount Tabor Middle School and keeping it at Mount Tabor for another year. That's to avoid potential overcrowding at Kellogg and potentially allow some room for Preston students. They're emphasizing the importance of shifting kids from K-8s and having more access to middle schools for more kids starting next year. But that isn't space that was necessarily planned for anyone else other than the Mount Tabor Middle School students.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the chat? Oh, here we go. Rachel is saying that she'd like to advocate that PPS transportation group make recommended walking routes for walking across 82nd and uses opportunity for safer routes for pedestrians.
So I think in the past we have worked really well with safer routes, and as soon as we determined that, you know, get all this up and running, that would be something that we'd work with them and make sure that we have a campaign about that that connection between our schools where we have to cross 82nd. I think at the same time, I'd like us to look at division also. So I think that it would be a great opportunity for us to talk about the transportation safety in our neighborhood. Well, we participate, and Ms. Gina has more recently than I, with PCC, and they have community discussions, and I think that that would be a great place for us to get support in the whole community around transportation. So it's definitely on our list of things to work on.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back to a follow-up from Mr. Harper as far as what trade-offs were discussed about sending a cohort of kids in the South Tabor neighborhood to Harrison Park when a middle school exists in their neighborhood. He doesn't, it sounds like it hasn't fully been addressed yet.
So I just want to get clarity. The South Tabor neighborhood, are the students in that neighborhood currently attending Bridger?
Are you asking? I mean, my daughter attends Bridger, and we live in the South Tabor neighborhood. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because
There's actually quite a few kids that go to Bridger that live in the South Tabor neighborhood.
Right, and I just wanted to make sure that we weren't speaking of other parts of the community. I just wanted to make sure. So in terms of really keeping cohorts of students in a feeder pattern together rather than splitting a school, that has been a priority that the Southeast Guiding Coalition has brought forward in their conversations. And so that's one of their goals in the process, is not to split students as we end up making the changes needed to balance our enrollment. So that would be one reason. And Judy, I don't know if you have additional thinking there.
I guess I would say that this is sort of one of the key questions about the entire enrollment and program balancing process. So there are 6 neighborhood K-8s in Southeast that the board has asked us to move towards conversion to K-5s. There isn't enough space for all 6 at Kellogg. We are excited about the conversion of Harrison Park, which will accommodate 2, 3, or more programs. We also have the challenge of consolidating and improving access to immersion programs. So all of those were factors that the Southeast Guiding Coalition looked at for months. At least 12 different plans on how to enroll kids at Kellogg, and looked at options that had to do with kids, you know, closer kids going to school versus other kids. And this is the proposal that they landed on. They prioritized, using the racial equity, social justice framework, students who are at schools that are higher percentages of Black, Indigenous, children of color, and students who qualify for free meals as the highest priority to have the earliest access to middle schools. And that was a very important factor in determining who would have who would be in the Kellogg zone for this first year. But it's a work in progress. It's the first year, but it's not the final year. So that's why just neighborhood lines, like looking at South Tabor or any other specific neighborhood association lines, weren't the highest factor, but they're definitely a factor that a number of committee members raised during discussions. And I'd be happy to share additional materials and more about their recommendation and how those committee members worked on the process. I hope that's helpful.
It's helpful. It's not. I've been following this since the beginning. So everything you said is stuff I'm very aware of and very supportive of the approach, and the equity focus makes a ton of sense. And like, I don't have any problem with how they went about doing any of this work. It makes a lot of sense. Having said that, there is an element of common sense that seems to be lacking when we get to this back end, and you have children living less than a block from a middle school now being asked to bus across division in 82nd to go to another middle school. I mean, as a parent, that's difficult. Do you understand? Like, now I know the 25 slots you're holding is a workaround to some degree, and I appreciate that. But I'm not just talking about my kid. Again, if my kid goes to Harrison Park, that's totally fine. What I'm talking about is that, like, from a perspective of just all these kids that live in this neighborhood around this school are not going to have access to it when it's literally at their doorstep almost. That's frustrating. When you think about kids being able to walk and bike to school and having that experience of ease of access to their school, you talk about grounding kids and success in having success. And I just feel like asking them, what kind of experience are they having just getting to and from school? What kind of experience are they having in their own neighborhood? What kind of experience are they having looking at a school that exists in their neighborhood and not being able to attend it? I mean, these are factors, maybe they were discussed because I was not in all those. Obviously, I'm not privy to all those discussions, but it's a struggle sometimes to hear this at the back end and say, this just doesn't really make a lot of sense for a lot of the families who live in this neighborhood right now.
Thanks.
So
I know we
think
appreciate your feedback.
I think the other factor is also the balancing of enrollment, and that we have several neighborhood middle schools that are over full, and Mount Tabor is one of them. And so the thought of adding more students to a school that's already over capacity wasn't a high priority on the list to add more students into Mount Tabor.
I also think that I know 25 sounds like a really round number, but I do know that Judy took the time to really look at where all of you live. And this is a number that, and maybe Judy, you can speak to it, but I think my understanding is it's a number that makes sense based on the people who are our neighborhood, who do live by Kellogg. Am I correct in that?
Yes, we, with the help of the school leaders, we pulled addresses for every current 5th, 6th, and 7th grade Bridger student and looked to see of students who live in the neighborhood. We just roughly used division as the dividing line, and that's what helped us get to a target number of 25 students who we hoped will fit into Kellogg and would be most inclined to want that choice because of walkability. And just seeing Ms. Brewer's comment, I want to make it like really clear that we've been talking about that with Melissa Schachner for weeks. This preceded this discussion. It was a recommendation of the Guiding Coalition that we work with Bridger families. So we put this meeting on the calendar and we're moving forward thinking about the best way to do it well before there was any change in the proposal for Preston.
Yeah, this was a conversation we had back in December. All right, we have 4 more minutes. And I want to make sure that you do the survey. So the survey is not a binding agreement. We just want to know, number one, we want to know that you are here so that we don't have to give you a call and that we know that you've heard this presentation. So we are very committed to contacting every single family, answering every single question each and every family has. We have a spreadsheet, we have your name on it. We are not going to mark it off until we actually have a conversation with each and every one of you, including our families who need translation. So we're doing that also. So 100% of our neighborhood 5th, 6th, and 7th grade families are going to talk to us, and we're going to make sure that you have a very clear understanding of everything that we presented tonight so that you can make the most knowledgeable decision for your family. So please make sure that you fill out the survey. I'm going to drop the link in the box again for you. In the survey,
Melissa, I'm seeing some notes here that people are having access issues.
They can't access the survey. We'd have to change the sharing permissions, it looks like.
oh, sorry.
I also wanted to acknowledge the additional questions. Miss Matija is taking down all your questions, and we're going to be sending out the questions discussed with their answers, as well as these questions that we may not get to tonight. And we'll be sending those out to all the families as well. And yes, we will also be sending the link to the recording of this meeting.
All right, so it's not coming up for me. So Gina and Elena, can you, oh, wait, maybe it just did.
And I also wanted to, I appreciate the trust you guys are putting into us. And I always use the word, these are my babies too. So I make it a really high priority to make sure these transitions are both welcoming, accessible, and no surprises as I work with the different principals and teachers to transition our kiddos basically from now until the end of the school year. Really, I've been talking to the kids in our class meetings and answering their questions. They have amazing questions and they're thinking about it. And so hopefully they'll continue to ask questions, and the kids know that they can always reach out to me if they have questions, because their questions are a little bit different than the parents usually. So, but anyways, I just wanted to let you know this transition is a big deal and it's a huge priority for me.
All right, I think I fixed the survey. Please fill it out. I appreciate it. You can add more questions later if you're like, oh, I didn't get my question answered. And we're here for you. So anytime, give us an email. If you need help with the application, we can walk through it with you. So Ms. Dickey is going to be doing a open house for you guys and a more formal presentation about the amazing work that they're doing over at Harrison Park. So I really suggest that you participate, and we will send out the link and all that information again so that you have it at the top of your email. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight and asking such great questions. And we love our community, and this is really sad for us, but I know that we're going to be handing off to really great hands of people at Harrison Park and the other middle schools in Southeast. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Miss Dickey.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, you guys.
Thank you.